Welcome to the Deprogram Show. I'm your host, RMJR. We got a wonderful candidate in the building, a very special man who has his boots on the ground, running for mayor of Chattanooga. We got in the building not only the one and only Mr. Monty Bruell. How you doing, my brother?
I am doing great. I am so happy to be with you on the Deprogram Show today.
Okay. On the Deprogram Show, I like to do it a little different than any other interview. I like to get right to the point. I'm kind of different, so I kind of mix what I do into my interviews, and you'll see it. If you get uncomfortable, if there's any question you don't want to ask, we're gonna put it out there. If you don't want to answer it, you have the freedom to say I'm cool, or in your own way.
Let's roll with it.
All right. So, Mr. Monty Bruell, I do a lot of research on, am I saying your name correct? Because I don't.
You are.
Okay, because a lot of people say Monty. And see, one thing I did, I noticed how you say it. So you ain't going to mess up your own name. So that's one thing I tried to pay attention to. So I noticed you spoke on, like, helping you come up in Alton Park. You came up in Alton Park and also City View, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So first question would be, how, when and if you are elected, what do you have in place to help brown, black, and low-income people, being that you can relate to us?
Sure. Absolutely. Unlike some of the candidates in this race, I have been black my whole life. So there's not a day that I wake up and I'm something else. So I'm totally comfortable talking about these issues. The number one problem that Chattanooga has is that we have income and wealth disparities between black and brown people and white people. So if we go all the way back to 1972, when John Kinsey was elected mayor of Chattanooga, the average African-American household earned 62% what the average white household earned. Now, you fast forward all the way to 2021, and this is pre-COVID, that number has dropped to 50%. So while everybody talks about how great Chattanooga is, how much opportunity there is, how we have prospered well, that hasn't been true for African Americans. We are headed backwards. We are doing worse today than we were doing in 1997. So that's what the situation is. We've got a 35% child poverty rate in Chattanooga. And when you look at people who are in poverty, 2/3 of the households in poverty in Chattanooga are headed by single women. And so the poverty is concentrated with single mothers, their kids, and families. And you know, we've had, I think, 64 people who have been mayor of Chattanooga. They've all been rich white men, and not a single one of them has prioritized the needs of single moms, their kids, and families. So if you want to create a better Chattanooga, if you want to solve the poverty problem, well, you better look at single mothers and kids and see what they need. So having given you that background, let me tell you what I'm going to do.
Okay.
The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make CARTA free to ride for all people all the time. If you take one round trip on CARTA every day and we make it free, then depending upon how you paid for your ticket, we're going to put $600 to $1,000 a year in your pocket per person. That's not per family, that's per person. So if you're making minimum wage and I now give your whole family free transportation, then that's serious money that I'm gonna put right back in your pocket. The other thing that I'm gonna do is, you know, I'm glad that we have Volkswagen here, that we have Amazon here, but we located them all the way practically to Ottawa. You know, how are people in East Chattanooga and Alton Park supposed to get out there? So what I want to do is I want to target the 100 largest African American owned companies in America, the 100 largest Latino owned companies in America, and the 100 largest women owned companies in America, because they haven't been recruited by anybody. Nobody goes to those companies and say, hey, we want you to come to our city. Well, what do you think it would do for East Chattanooga if we put a $250 million African American owned company right in the middle of East Chattanooga? It would change the lives of people there. It would create jobs, and not just the jobs inside the company. I mean, it would create business for restaurant owners, shop owners, the people in the whole neighborhood. So that's the kind of thing I want to do. I also want to address childcare problems. Because people need childcare 24/7, to be perfectly honest. If you're working a second shift job or you're working a third shift job, you don't care that the daycare center is open from 9 in the morning to 5 in the evening. You need other hours. So we're going to have to bring more and better daycare to bear on this. But those are just some of my ideas that I have. But improving the income of Black and brown people in Chattanooga is my number one priority.
Okay. Since we're on income, this is one of my pet peeves. I'm a working man. So in Tennessee, we have what's called, right to work, correct?
Yep, right to work.
So under right to work, it gives the employer pretty much any reason at all to fire you. Am I tripping, or is that a fact?
No, it should be called right to fire instead of right to work.
Yeah. See, this me. I'm one of those guys. One of the reasons why I don't actively vote, this just me, is that reason right there. My thing is, if you want me to vote for you, the first thing you got to protect is my job. Now, I ain't tripping if I do something, that if I steal something at the job, or if I'm not on time. If I don't do my job and I'm not on time and handling business, then fire me. I shouldn't be there at all. But my problem is, why do we have the right to work, which should be right to fire, or no right to fire, because they don't have to have a right? So how is it a way, if you become mayor, is it a way that you can address that? Can you hear me?
So that happens at the state level. It's our state legislature that does that. So what I want to do as mayor is I want to go to the mayors of the other 3 large cities. I want to go to the mayor of Memphis, the mayor of Nashville, the mayor of Knoxville, and I want us all to get together. And I want us to agree on all the things we want from the state legislature, because the people in those 4 cities comprise 65% of the entire state's population. And we don't need our state legislature trying to preempt the rights of cities and the rights of mayors, which is what they do. Every time somebody tries to do something progressive, our state legislature tries to do an end around and come up with some law to keep them from being able to do it. So if we can't get from the state the things that we need and the things that we want, I'm prepared, either with the other mayors or even by myself, to go to the courthouse. I will sue the state of Tennessee because I think that the state has overstepped its constitutional authority. And I think that they're doing things to deliberately keep people, oppressed, and to not let mayors do the right thing by their own people. I mean, we saw this during, COVID. Mayor Burke wanted to, take some action to curtail it. He wanted to make people wear masks. And the governor said, oh, no, you can't do that. I'm the governor. I make that decision. Well, that would have been a case where I would have gone to the courthouse and we would have seen who's going to get to make that decision.
Yeah, because if I'm looking at it correctly, because I try to do my research, the mayor is like the governor over the city, correct?
Right. Yes.
So it's like you step in and tell the city, hey, This is what we gonna do when you got a governor on that level saying, hey, this is what we're gonna do.
Right. So we have in Tennessee something called home rule. And home rule says that in any area where the state hasn't already passed a law, the cities get to decide what to do. Well, there have been cases like I think Nashville was talking about a $15 an hour minimum wage that they were going to put in place for Nashville. Well, the state legislature went and passed a law saying that cities didn't have the right to a set of minimum wage. And so they went behind Nashville's back because they didn't want that precedent for other cities in the state. And that's just crazy. You know, they weren't even thinking about it till the mayor of Nashville said, you know what, I think our people should make more money. And the legislature said, oh, we can't let that happen. That's crazy.
So it's like, that sounds like to me, they want to keep you impoverished.
Yes, yes. And that's how they market our state to companies. They don't go to companies, like they didn't go to Volkswagen and Amazon and say, oh, come here, we have the best workers. They didn't say we have the smartest workers. They didn't say we have the most productive workers. They said our people work for cheap. And if you come here, we'll make sure they continue to work for cheap. Now that's selling your workers out. You can't sell people out like that.
And I mean, so now you see my frustration with how things go, because I'm like, how can you expect me? I ain't tripping. I understand the whole game, but it's like, at the end of the day, my livelihood is more important than anything, because that's how I feed my family. That's how I pay my bills. And you got this man over here making this amount of money. I can't even go to my employer and say, hey, we do the same job. I need this. They like, get out my face.
Exactly.
Then you want me to go and participate in a system when I'm like, hey, what about this? Because this is the bottom line.
Well, I hope I'm going to change your mind about voting in this next election, because I'm the mayor that's going to fight for you. I'm the mayor that's going to try to stand up and do the right thing. And that's why we've got to reject all of these same old kinds of people who are running for office. They're part of the problem. They created the problem. You know, it's like the joke where you can't kill your parents and then ask for the court to have mercy on you because you're an orphan. Well, you know, this is the same thing. You can't create this corrupt system and then run on a campaign, well, I'm going to change the corrupt system. That's just BS.
All right. We'll deal with this. This kind of goes into it. The system, the corrupt system. You made a statement that Black, brown, and impoverished people have been put in a jail cell in Chattanooga, and voting is the key to get up out of that. Can you elaborate on how voting will help us get out of this prison that they have put us in?
Sure. So Chattanooga is a city of right at 200,000 people. We have 103,000 registered voters. Of those 103,000 registered voters, let's just say 30,000 of them are African American. In the last city election, only 19,000 people voted. And Andy Burke became mayor of the city of Chattanooga with 11,000 votes. 11,000 votes, because so many people sat on the sidelines. And the system is designed this way. I mean, we can talk about how they designed the system to produce this low voter turnout. This is probably too strong a phrase, but I think that we're in danger of having a kind of apartheid in Chattanooga, where through making sure that we're policing Black and brown neighborhoods and sticking felony convictions on Black and brown people, we get to strip away their voting rights. And so if you've stripped away everybody's voting rights, it doesn't matter whether you're the majority or the minority. Because as the minority, if you've taken away the voting power of the majority, you control it. And so that's why it's important that African Americans, Latinos, and other minorities always vote. Because if there are 30 to 40,000 minority votes in Chattanooga, and it only takes 11,000 to elect the mayor, then we should be electing every mayor. But because we sit it out, because we don't go to the polls, the majority gets to retain power with just 11,000 votes. That's bad. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Let me ask you this, because you're in a very important race. In the mayoral race, have you feel in previous elections that is set up?
Well, in most elections, you don't have the number of candidates that you have running here, and I'm just going to be totally honest with you. I think what has happened in this race is that when I entered the race, the establishment became a little bit worried that I had a really good chance of winning, because I'm from Alton Park, I'm from City View, I'm from East Chattanooga, but I'm also Baylor's first African-American graduate. And I went to Harvard after Baylor, so I have a degree in economics from Harvard. So I'm gonna, yes, I want the black vote, I want the brown vote, but I'm gonna get my share of the white vote too. And that makes me unlike any other African-American who's run for mayor before. People are scared of me because I draw from every zip code in Chattanooga, and that is a danger to the power structure.
So it's like they put the fix in by, okay, we got this guy, he's a threat. So we also have, let's throw some more people out there just to confuse people. Then you have people who don't even really care about, they probably, I'm gonna be honest, you don't have to say it, I'm gonna say it. They done paid people, hey, go on and enter this. Bro, we know you're not gonna win. We know you're not gonna win. You ain't even gotta push too hard. We gonna pay you to appeal to who you appeal to, and don't worry about it. We got this bag over here for you.
Well, that's what I've heard. I have heard people have gotten paid. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, that is exactly what's going on.
Because I'm gonna say this, I feel like some of the mayor candidates want to say this, so I say it for you, so y'all won't catch no flack. It's like, if I'm really running for mayor, I'm gonna speak for me. If I'm running for mayor and I really want to be the mayor of Chattanooga, I'm going to show up to every debate. I'm going to show up to every function. I'm going to be everywhere throughout the city. I'm not just going to say, let me go on Facebook or let me go on YouTube and say, hey, I'm Roland McClendon and I'm running for mayor. But you never see me.
Right.
It just, to me, that don't make sense. So I knew when I seen that many candidates, I was like, y'all up to something. It's a trick bag somewhere.
And then, the cherry on top of the cake here is that someone found a candidate with my first name and a very similar last name, Monty Bruell. Now, nobody was even talking about anybody named Monty Bruell running until I began to gain momentum. And then all of a sudden, somebody dug up Monty Bruell to put him on the ballot to confuse people because of our names. And that's when I knew, oh, they're coming for me. They are really coming for me now.
Because I'm not going to say the company's name, but when I say what I say, you're going to already know. You have a company who pretty much dictates what go on in this city. And the way they get down, for the most part, we gonna put you in place so you could take care of our business. And guess what? they have a candidate in the race. I'm not going to throw no names out there. Do your research, and you'll see that I'm not telling no lies. So what is happening is it's the system continuing. And you got Mr. Brewer, who will get in the west side, who will go to the south side, talk to Lil Mo Films, talk to RMJR on the Deprogram show. They like, no, hold on. This dude could really win. He touching people on this side, he touching people on that side, and then he touching people like your Marie Motts. Shout out to Marie, who keep her boots on the ground, and they like, interesting. And then it's like, what is your plan if you really, now this is not a question for you, but I'm like, to the other people, quit playing. And see, this me. I'm from the west side, College Hill Courts, and y'all gonna know what this about. I've been in the west side. I've lived in the west side for 18 years. My mother, she still live in the west side. And I'm gonna go on and say it. I didn't find out the candidate from the west side was from the west side till he ran for mayor. Y'all, am I tripping? This ain't no knock on you, but bro, if you from the hood and you was the city attorney, why you didn't come holler at us? You forgot?
Yeah. Well, he came for a photo op to make his announcement. He stood on the steps of James A. Henry Elementary and said, "Oh, this is where I went to school." And then he got in his car and drove away.
I mean, this is my thing. I don't knock nobody, but how can Monty Bruell be from Alden Park and be from City View? And I see you go through the west side with somebody from the west side, Jamal Hicks, aka Maul the Pimp, and Lil Mo Films, who's from the east side. I think Lil Mo from Paws Home, my bad. But somebody from the south side and from the west side and be in the trenches talking to my brother Alan Anderson, who was talking about trespassing. My brother can't even walk from the top of the hill to the store without getting stopped. Come on, right, bro.
Yeah. And so who do the police report to? The police report to the mayor. And that's another reason why it's important who your mayor is, because we've got to change the way we police neighborhoods. I say all the time, if the police spend as much time watching teenagers in Riverview as they spent watching teenagers in Alton Park, then there'd be a whole lot of white kids from Riverview locked up. Because it's not that nobody's doing anything over there. It's just that nobody's watching, nobody cares, nobody's paying attention. If you stopped every car, you're gonna make a lot of possession arrests in Riverview. That's just how it is.
I mean, one of the reasons why is, like, if I'm in the west side, I got to be on alert. All right, let me make sure if I'm driving through the west side, go see my mother, I got to be on alert. Let me get in, let me get out. But I could be in Riverview and be a different shade or a different tone. I'm talking about color. And I can have everything I want to have on me. Oh, man, you go on, because this is not, quote unquote, a high crime area. Right. This is a question I have for you, though. We seen the 32, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also seen the guys, the Athens Park Bloods, who they was trying to put the RICO case on them.
Right.
My first question, we had a situation to where we had some guys get busted for meth. They didn't look like the 32 and did not look like the guys who was Athens Park Bloods. Why? This is just a question. Like I say, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine. Why do you think the emphasis was put on the worst of the worst when the 32 got caught, and the emphasis was put on the Athens Park Bloods when they was caught, but we've seen hardly anything on these guys who got caught with this meth? Why is that?
Well, because creating a boogeyman is good for business. If you know that in our culture, people, particularly white people, have been indoctrinated to be afraid of Black men specifically. If you know that that is a fear, that even if it's not conscious, even if you don't go through life going, you know, I'm afraid of Black men or I hate Black men, even if that's not who you are, it's in the back of your mind. And so if you want to justify your worth, if you want to say, oh, look what a great job we're doing policing our city, then you want lots of pictures of you putting that Black boogeyman in handcuffs. And that plays to the deepest part of our culture. That is like the shame and the evil that we don't ever talk about, that goes all the way back to slavery. And that's why those people get treated differently, because there's no value in showing you, you know, locking up the white people on the meth bust, but you get a lot of mileage. I mean, people, every TV station will show up, every media outlet will be there to show you putting the the Black people you arrest, you know, through the perp walk. And so that's the difference. I mean, it's really just playing upon, you know, evil stuff that goes deep in our cultural psyche.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Do you have anything in place to, I ain't